With the NFL Scouting Combine set to kick off next week in Indianapolis, it's time to get our first look at who the Raiders could go after in this year's draft. Cassie Soto here with you, and I am joined by NFL writer for the Las Vegas Review Journal, Adam Hill. Adam, of course, the Raiders are under new management this year, so new head coach Josh McDaniels and GM Dave Ziegler are bringing a fresh perspective when it comes to what the Raiders need in this year's draft. So let's go ahead and talk some mock draft here. The Raiders currently own the 22nd overall pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. And I want your take here on an offensive player the Raiders could go after this year.
So here's the thing about the Raiders. Last year they went into the draft. We kind of knew there was two positions they had to fill as starting positions. They needed an offensive lineman, a right tackle in particular, and they needed a safety. And we knew that they were kind of going to go in those two directions in the draft based on how all the free agency played out and all of that. And it was pretty easy to see that's what they were going to do. This year, there's a lot of moving parts between now and the draft. So we're not exactly sure if there's a position of need necessarily. But I think we can kind of pick out some spots that they might be looking in terms of making a draft selection. And again, they have to make a decision on Derek Carr. A lot could change there on offense. But right now, we have to start just kind of narrowing it down and who's kind of mocked late in that first round where the Raiders select at number 22. And by the way, real wrinkle here, the Patriots pick right before the Raiders do. And the Patriots have a lot of the same thought processes that the Raiders front office does now. So that'll be interesting to watch. But I'm going to say a playmaking wide receiver is definitely a must for this Raiders team right now. We know what Hunter Renfrow can do. We know some of the other talent they have at wide receiver in Bryan Edwards and at tight end and Darren Waller and Foster Moreau and a lot of the weapons they have on offense. But I think in terms of a playmaking wide receiver late in the first round, they could look at Chris Olave from Ohio State. He's a very, very good player, very productive player in college, an explosive playmaker, dynamic with the ball in his hands, can get downfield as well. I think there's a lot of things he can do that will really help the Raiders offense, and I think he could be available at that number 22 pick. So Chris Olave, a player to watch certainly from Ohio State here at the Combine for the Raiders.
How about a defensive player the Raiders could go after with that 22nd overall pick this year, Adam?
So again, we don't exactly know where their holes are going to be. I think linebacker is probably going to be an area that they want to address at some point in the offseason, whether through free agency or the draft. But this is a team that absolutely needs a playmaking, dynamic cornerback, and in particular, a physical man-to-man corner, because there's a couple of really good zone corners in the draft that I like a lot. But if you listen to what Patrick Graham has said in the past and what he preaches as a defensive coordinator, it's that you have to have man-to-man corners in this league. And that's because unlike Gus Bradley, the Raiders defensive coordinator last year, Patrick Graham does like to blitz. And when you blitz, you have to have guys that can play physical man-to-man corner. And there is a player that I think will be available for the Raiders in this draft that can do that. And that's Kaiir Elam from Florida. He can lock up, get up on the line of scrimmage, really get physical with the wide receivers, and that is going to be a key to this Raiders defense. Again, they haven't had great luck drafting corners recently, but you have to find one that works, and I think it could work out here if they go Kaiir Elam. He's committed a lot of penalties. I think that's because he's so physical. I think you can work on that, get him a little bit more disciplined, but I think he is the type of player that could really fit into this defense.
Well, you mentioned things not going so well in the draft for the Raiders these last few years, Adam. And that, of course, has been the case, especially with the first round. So I ask, how important will this year's draft be, especially as you mentioned, the Patriots are picking right before the Raiders, and now the Raiders are a little bit of Patriots West action going on here. So new head coach Josh McDaniels and new GM Dave Ziegler, how important will it be for them to get off on the right foot this year?
Yeah, it's obviously, it's vital. And you build teams through the draft. That's how you do it. Now, the Rams would disagree, and we just saw what they did in winning the Super Bowl. For the most part, teams believe in building through the draft, and I think that's what this Raiders team wants to do. And again, we'll learn a lot about where they think this team is by how they handle free agency, how they handle the next couple of weeks, even before the draft, of what direction are they going? Are they trying to piece in some veteran players here and there because they think they can make a run and win a Super Bowl this year? Or are they trying to leverage for the future, maybe trade away some of their assets, get extra draft picks, and play for that future, kind of rebuild a little bit? We're not exactly sure where their belief is. And again, that Derek Carr decision will tell us a lot about that as well. They've said kind of through the media a little bit, leaking it out, that they want to commit to him long term. but it doesn't sound like they've actually tried to make any negotiations happen behind the scenes to lock that in. So where do they really stand on Derek Carr? That'll tell us a lot about how they plan to build this team as well. But the draft is vital, obviously, whether they acquire some more picks and play for the future, or maybe trade some of those picks away and try to get assets to help them right now. Will tell us a lot about where they think this team is and how they are going to operate this franchise now that they're in charge.
A lot of moving pieces here, Adam, and we look forward to everything that is to come in the coming weeks, starting with, again, the NFL Scouting Combine next week in Indianapolis. Adam and I will be there, so be sure to stay locked in with us as we bring you everything you need to know there at vegasnation.com. For Adam Hill, I'm Cassie Soto. Thank you so much for watching.